Hello, welcome everybody. Very nice to see you today. Whoever's with us, give us a wave, give us a comment, share us if you love us. Tell us where you are, what you're doing today. I'm here with the amazing Chad Stender, everybody. Woohoo! Woohoo! I'm so excited. Welcome, Chad. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be here, Barnaby.
Cool. Yes, let us know where you are, guys, and where you're tuning in from today, and how your day is going, and just generally, what's going on in clown life, in your clown life. Let us know. Share these things. It's always a great opportunity when we do these Clown-versations for it to be not just me and the amazing guests I have, but also you guys, being community, sharing what you're doing. So
I love to hear from clowns all around the world and how things are going. And of course, these times are changing for performing artists all over the world.
Yeah,
so I love to connect with people. That's one of the best things about this business, is that I get to connect with so many different performers from all over the world.
Yeah. Right. Well, now you've already given us a little sneak preview of some of the new technologies that you're working with now, which is just, I'm so fascinated by this topic, which is really why I wanted to have you on, Chad, because, there aren't many people out there now, I feel like, who are real craftsmen of this red nose business. And it's so exciting that you're bringing this back and you're making it current and contemporary and relevant. But what I'd like to do is kind of take it back and ask you a bit more of the kind of roots of this story of yours. Like, how did you get into the idea of even making red noses in the first place? And were you always a maker of sorts, or did you come more from a performing background?
Good. Yeah, it's a long, funny story how I ended up here. I am a performer, and I have been a performer since I was very little in the theater, doing repertory theater as a little kid. And, I ended up in the physical theater world pretty quickly. When I got out of high school and got into college, I ended up in the world of physical theater. And at the same time, yes, I have always been a maker. And when it came down to it, this started because I needed a specific nose that for a specific character that I was doing, which I needed to make it myself for it to be right. My main kind of shtick is a clown version of Mark Twain. And so,
wow.
Yeah, so that's the nose that is the first nose that I ever made, was his nose. Now,
so there's a Mark Twain red nose.
There is here. I have it here. It's this one.
Oh wow, that is awesome.
So
complete with mustache.
So I've been doing Mark Twain for a while, and anyway, I was getting misidentified as I would perform him as some other old man in a white suit, right? Like Colonel Sanders or Einstein. People would they didn't know that I was Twain, and
right.
So that's
come on, people.
Right. I didn't want to use. I could have used a big cigar, but I didn't want to. I was performing with a lot of children, and I didn't want to have a big cigar.
Then you'd have been mistaken for Groucho Marx.
Yeah. Well, so I needed to make the character a little more specific, so to look like him. And one thing that's very unique about him is his nose. He does have a unique nose. It kind of droops down over his mustache a little bit, and anyway, it's a distinguishing factor about him. So that's how I got started making this nose for Twain. And this is a very fitted nose. This nose is almost like a prosthetic. It fits onto my face really perfectly, and it doesn't need very much to hold on. it doesn't need strings, obviously, to stay onto my face. And so in the process of creating this nose, I just thought, hey, what if I just put something on the inside that just kind of put a little pressure in there, and maybe that would be all I need to hold the nose on. And so I played around with that for a while, and it worked. And after eventually I realized that I could make something like this that held any nose on, and it wouldn't have to be a very fitted nose like this one. It could be any, even a big nose, and this little mechanism would work. So I started making those, and this was when I was in the San Francisco Bay. That's where I'm from originally, is the San Francisco Bay, and I know a lot of clowns there, and I just started giving them out to my friends, and then and they wanted to buy them, and slowly people wanted to buy the noses, and they liked them. So I started the business on Etsy about 6 years ago, and it's grown ever since. It's I think it is. Well, go ahead.
What was the kind of like interest? Like, was there some point at which you realized what it was that people really wanted, and then once you've had that sort of key, you were able to like expand, or was there just immediately like people were buying them?
I think I've never really had the money to do like paid advertising, so the business was disseminated through word of mouth, and the clown world is interconnected for sure, and globally interconnected. So it's taken a long time for people to hear about them, but absolutely, as soon as anybody heard that there was an option to attach your nose that wasn't a string and it wasn't glue,
right,
people were very interested.
So that's the unique selling point, really.
Absolutely. I think it's a comfort thing, and as a performer, I think the nose has always been the most tedious part of being a performer when you use a red nose. And I always used string in college and everything, and I never had a glue-on nose. And when I remember realizing that people glued the nose onto their face for the first time, and it took me aback. I was pretty surprised that so many clowns actually use adhesives to hook the nose onto their face. So
yeah, because that's going to be pretty bad for your skin, and not good to be breathing it in and stuff like that.
It is actually. A lot of people have allergies that develop from the glue, and I know people who have gotten infections in their nose from wearing it so much.
Yeah. And your solution is just so elegant and simple, and works great. I mean, if you haven't tried one of these, if you're listening, it's really worth trying it. And you can, once you've got one, you're going to want 5. So
I have tried to make as many shapes as possible. I have about 13 or 14 different shapes right now, and that will be it all. I'm always making more shapes, so that will be expanded through the years. And a lot of my new shapes come from commissions that people ask me to make them a custom nose, or to remake a nose that they really have always performed in, and I'll remake their nose with my attachment in it, and then I just kind of put that nose into my line.
That's interesting, because the noses that I always used, Chad, were the pro nose.
Mm-hmm.
Noses, and I just love the shape of this, which is the thing I like about it is the shape, and it has this nice kind of foam thing going on, but obviously you've got the string, and I think it's the BS2 model, which or no, BS1 actually this is.
Okay.
There's a bunch of and they don't have beautiful names like yours.
Yeah.
But when I discovered yours, it was like it's pretty much the one you sent me. It's pretty much the same. It's a very similar kind of shape to that.
Yeah.
It's maybe like a tiny bit wider.
Uh-huh.
But I think actually once you've got it on, it kind of holds together a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
So I immediately loved the shape of it. Look, I mean, it's really, really similar.
Yeah.
And a similar kind of finish to it as well. Like I don't really like them too shiny, and it's kind of got a little bit of shine, but it's not too much. It's sort of more of a matte finish.
Right.
And for people who haven't really seen this properly yet, you know, it's got this amazing. What do you call this thing?
I call it the funny bone.
Oh, right, funny bone.
That's what I've always called it. You know, because it looks kind of like a wishbone, but
yeah.
But it's a funny bone. That's the name I came up with, and
because we're clowns.
It's stuck. Yeah.
You're a genius with the branding, Chad. I have to say.
Well, thank you. It's taken a lot of years to do it. You know, it's a funny thing because it's a new contraption, and I have to try to explain it to people and how it works. Mm-hmm. But there's never been anything like this before, and so I'm always trying to find ways to explain the way that it works a little bit more clearly to people. It's funny because, you know, I get a lot of one half of my customer base are older clowns who've been clowning for years, and they always glued their nose on or used string. And so when I approach them or they hear about my product, I have to kind of convince them that it works, to convince them that it might be better than gluing it on. And there's a lot of skepticism there. And then there's another half of my customer base, which are young people who are just getting into clowning. And my product makes a lot of sense to them. You know, they're thinking, why would I ever glue my nose onto my face? You know? So they don't need a lot of convincing, basically. There's not any skepticism there.
Yeah.
In that half. So it's pretty interesting.
And the wire, you know, in a way, I've never glued, you know, I've always used a kind of almost semi-transparent kind of elastic, but it's not really transparent. Obviously you can really see it. And, you know, on the one hand, there's something I quite like about, I don't in a way mind the visibility of it, because it's almost part of the costume, you know, it's kind of like, it's there, but it kind of leaves a mark across your face, which sometimes can stay, like particularly as you get older, I think, and your skin gets a bit less sort of supple, you know, that can stay for a day or two, that sort of line. I almost feel like at some point it's just going to become permanent, like a permanent line in my face that's like across here.
I think it's an interesting subject, and I mean, what you're bringing up is the space where a clown is within the real world and outside of the real world, and how we play in that realm, in that liminal space, right? And you know, the red nose is obviously unrealistic. It's obviously just a big red nose, and so even that on its own, I mean, as long as you're a red-nosed clown, you're already pushing yourself out of the real world into a more, you know, supernatural, say, world. So I think one of the things that I always wanted, if I was going to wear a red nose, was that I had as many things keeping me in the real world as possible with the red nose on. And so another thing that I've tried to do is to create nose shapes that are kind of realistic, especially this Twain one and others that I make have they're sculpted with realism around the nostrils and just kind of contours that are kind of believable. You know, it's a red nose, obviously, and it's exaggerated in proportions most of the time. But I think that having a little bit of realism to the contour of it and not having the strings makes it more approachable, makes your character more approachable to people and more believable, more, you know, it's a suspended disbelief, right? That the audience puts on. And I think that whatever we can do to make that character more approachable and more digestible to your audience, I think the better.
And it's more sophisticated as well, I think, the kind of noses that you make, because, you know, there is this sort of stigma around clowning and people who are afraid, and this association with this with fear, and and for me, a lot of that is also kind of connected to these very, very large noses that I just think kind of are garish and overwhelm the face and overwhelm the spectator.
Yeah.
And what I appreciate about what you're doing as well is that creating these kind of elegant, aesthetically pleasing noses that I think kind of help to soften that appearance whilst retaining the feeling of being a clown, obviously, but sort of soften that hard edge and that garishness that can overwhelm with the big kind of shapeless noses, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I agree with that. There's something about, I mean, most clown noses that you can find. I think Pro Nose is one of the exceptions. They do make noses with contours and that have some elegant shapes to them for sure. But most noses that you find and most noses you see in the media are, I don't know what's the right word. It's almost like they're just harsh. They're too unrealistic. They're just like, you know, a big ball stuck on someone's nose, and it's more of a mask, or more. Yeah, it creates distance between your audience and you, and I think really what we want the nose to bring people in and make them feel comfortable, you know. So
do you have any more there in front of you that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I brought some here. Let's see. The little ones, I think there's some. I tend to think a lot of times when people are asking, you know, how do I choose a nose, and I say, well, do you want to be funny or do you want to be cute? And that's something a lot of people don't really think about, but a lot of people, it's one or the other, you know. So
that's cute.
So this is a kind of a Spanish style. I think I see a lot of Spanish clowns who have this shape of nose.
That's Charlie Ravel.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
He's Spanish.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so maybe a lot of the Spanish, that's maybe a traditional shape for because of him. That's possible. But again, this has a sweep upward that creates a contour. You know, that makes it. I don't know. It's like it's funny to call it realistic, but it kind of is, right? It works.
I love that one.
And this one is very similar, but it doesn't have the sweep. It's just more abrupt. Meets the nose more abrupt. This is similar to yours, but I think it's a little smaller than yours. But this is a model designed after a Pro Nose. Actually, this is a you know, basically somebody who used a Pro Nose that wanted me to make that for them.
Oh,
I don't know if it's I'm not sure exactly which one it was, but
that you sent me. I think you sent me the classic.
I sent you the classic. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying it's kind of similar to your old nose in shape, but a little bit smaller, I think. So those are kind of on the cuter side. One of the first noses that I made was this one. This is the Emmett Kelly. And it was one where I was really experimenting with those contours and trying to make it.
That's so cool. I love it.
So this has kind of a blunt face.
Yes.
And just really has like a deep nostril crease. And that's really also what makes it kind of comfortable, is that it hugs the face. You know, it really grabs onto the face and hugs.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's got. I'm trying to get it in the camera, right? Like a profile view.
That's pretty good, though. I can see it. Yeah. Oh, it's quite long.
Yeah, it does stick out a little bit farther than you would think, because in this direction, it has this flat appearance in this direction, but it does stick out.
Yeah. There you go.
I feel like this was kind of, I had a hobo, you know, tramp Emmett Kelly in mind when I was making this, and I feel like it kind of, I don't know, gives off that kind of vibe.
Yes. Definitely.
And I mean, I do want to point out one of the other things that why people appreciate these noses is because of what I'm doing here, just taking it on and off so easily.
Right.
I mean, in the theater especially, and in a lot of types of clowning situations, you want to be able to take it off, and a lot of people have kind of been plagued by the glue and not being able to take it off when they need to get a brush of fresh air, to take a break, whatever it is. And it actually gives people the option to change noses too, which is kind of new as well.
Have you found there's a size limit? Like you can't get over a certain size to be able to use this the funny bone?
Yeah, that's interesting. Good question. I'm actually working on a giant nose, and I am actually figuring out how big it could possibly be before this mechanism stops working. Right.
Right.
Because there's a weight limit to it, and at a certain point, the nose is going to be so heavy that the little balls are putting too much pressure on the inside of your nose, and it's either going to pop out or they're going to be uncomfortable. So,
yeah.
I know I'll give a sneak peek here. This is a nose that is coming soon, and this isn't it. This is a prototype, but this is a big.
Whoa,
big nose.
It's huge.
I've got it written on the side. It's 24 grams because I'm weighing it. I'm trying to figure out how big can it be.
Yeah,
and
that stays on pretty well.
Yeah. This one.
Wow.
Oh, there it goes. See,
right.
It's a little bit too big. It's a little bit too heavy, and I'm trying to work on that. But also this also means that I'm making adjustments to the funny bone itself on the inside. I'm starting to make it taller, and the ball's a little bit bigger and things like that. So making adjustments. I think this is pretty darn big. You wouldn't want to go much bigger than this. It would hide your face too much. But already my eyes are kind of behind the nose,
Yeah, it's a little big for my taste.
It is. But that was the experiment, trying to see how big I could actually go.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating. And so, is that a silicone one, or is that still the?
That's still latex. Yeah.
Latex.
Yeah, and let's
cool.
see. I got a couple others here. I'll just put on the couple other unique ones here. This is kind of a flat nose. It's flat and kind of. I feel like it's kind of a tire. It's kind of tire shaped. It goes wraps all the way around.
Yeah, I like that.
Here you can see it better that way. Yeah. So it wraps all the way around the nose like that, and it's kind of flat.
Yeah.
Anyway,
what's that one called?
This is the Yakko Warner.
Okay.
I named this one after a cartoon character. If anybody's familiar with the Animaniacs, that's an old cartoon from the 90s.
I was wondering what that was actually, whether it was a clown I'd never heard of, or
they do have in the cartoons. They have red noses, and so and he's a very wacko character, and it's the only one I have that's not named after a famous clown who's passed away. I think I made that before I decided that I was gonna stick to deceased clowns, and so from then on, I've chosen to kind of I want to find clowns who deserve a little bit more attention. The ones I'm naming now, I'm trying to find clowns. I didn't do this right in the beginning, so I do have some who are kind of super popular. But I have in the newest noses that I have are all named after clowns who I think people should know more about. Rafael Padilla is I think the newest one that I did. Chocolat and and female clowns as well. I'm trying to give them just for the recognition. It's definitely a white male dominated industry and profession. So
you've got the Albert Fratellini there. I was wondering if you might have the Annie Fratellini.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I don't, but I should, right? I should.
I'm just looking at her. I'm just looking up her up right now to see what her nose looks like, because it can't be random. I mean, it has to be sort of modeled on.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just gonna see if I can share it, if this works here. Let's see if I can do this. Hang on. Annie Fratellini. There we go. You see that?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah.
It's kind of very round and sort of a button.
Yeah, it's very round, but it tapers back and fits her nose right along the bridge. It has a nice sweep up, but yeah, it's a very kind of yeah, that's unique. I like it. See that, and that's the other interesting thing I find is I wonder where these people throughout history got their noses, and my guess is a lot of clowns have always made them. You know, there's always been, well, mask makers are probably the ones who always made the noses, and throughout history, people who are making masks also made noses, and that's how I actually learned. The first person who I learned to make noses from and kind of saw their workshop was the mask maker at Dell'Arte International, where I went to school, and we made masks in the program there, and he had a whole kind of bench set up for just making noses. And
so you learned a lot. You learned a lot from that person, I'm imagining.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were doing mask making mostly, but one of the things that we did in that course was make casts of our faces to create masks on. And so, and the cast of my face I have here, and this is what I use now to sculpt noses on. So,
oh, how cool.
There it is.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the same one or not. It might be. It's still pretty round, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm curious of what it's made of too.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell. And I was looking at I was completely wrong about Charlie Revell. I just did a quick search, and actually Charlie Revell's nose is very, very different from that one, but it would also be a cool one for you to have, if I can find that one to share. See that?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's kind of square, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge. It's very big, and it's kind of square.
Yeah.
But there was something familiar about that little one that you said was Spanish looking.
I'm not sure who it is that wears that, but I see that shape quite a bit. It's well known. I think I feel like it's some clown in Spain or something like that.
Yeah. And they do in South America, they have very particular kinds of nose. The Chilean clowns, for example, who are wonderful, the traditional circus clowns of Chile, who are have gone out and from Chile and are famous all over South America. They wear these tiny little noses. They're really, really small.
Right. Super cute, right? Yeah.
Little boy, they're the characters are like little children, little boys. Very anarchic.
Yeah, right.
Cool. So this switch to silicone, is that driven by also, I was going to ask, is it also driven by people having reactions to the latex? Is that an issue? Like allergies?
Yeah, I think I've come across that a few times. Actually, not that many people are actually allergic to latex. Latex allergies are usually built up over time, through exposure. So there's always the possibility that somebody will kind of gain an allergy to it. But I honestly haven't found that many people that have said, "Oh, I can't use your nose because it's latex." But one thing that is pretty common, especially in the Netherlands and Scandinavia, is a lot of hospitals don't allow any latex in the hospital whatsoever.
Oh, interesting.
So for the same reason, obviously care clowning and hospital clowning, clinic clowns are so popular now, and they're getting more and more popular. So so that is more of a strong reason for me to switch, actually, just because hospitals won't allow the latex in the building. So,
and is that is it more expensive as a material, silicone, or the same? Or?
It is more expensive, but each nose really only uses so much of the material. It's a very small amount of the material that it actually it's not too big of a deal. I will definitely be spending a little bit more money on material, but all in all, it's going to make a better product. It's going to make a more durable nose. And the manufacturing process is actually going to allow me to make new shapes easier. And it's going to allow me to do more colors, brighter colors, different finishes. You know, right now, latex really, I've played with the glossy finish a little bit, but the gloss doesn't really, there isn't a really good glossy finish for latex that sticks. So I've pretty much stayed matte only, and the silicone will allow me to have 2 or 3 different stages of glossiness to them.
Cool.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Dan says Animaniacs was amazing. So there's another Animaniacs fan here.
Great. No, it really is. It's a brilliant cartoon. You should, if you look it up, it's brilliant. And
you know, I think what you need, Chad, is like on your website. I mean, maybe you've got this and I just didn't see it, but it would be cool to have like a little, you know, some like interesting facts or something about the clowns that have inspired each of the noses, like a little history or a little.
Yeah, true. A little bio about each one. Yeah.
And something about the history of red noses and the relationship to masks as well.
Yeah.
It would be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I've kind of got that. I've got bits and pieces of that, little bios of these people, and I do need to compile them and make a whole page on my site that has that. It's a really good idea. A lot of them I get surprised that people don't know who they are, and you know, now I'm learning actually from watching your interviews that you've done and the different things that you do. I realize how many clowns there are that I don't know about. I mean, you know, the European clowns and the American clowns, they're very different. And, and you don't realize, you know, here in America, I can list off my famous American clowns, but I never thought of them as American clowns. I just thought of them, those are the famous clowns, but that's not true at all. You know, you're helping me realize that like the real famous clowns depends on where you're from. And,
of course,
you know, it's so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be, and you could even actually, when you package the nose, it would be cool to have like a little fold out like information sheet about the clown that has inspired that thing, you know, because
absolutely
it's something that people love, isn't it, to know the story behind the product, and you know, you could even talk about why you chose that particular clown as a starting point, like what it was about them.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Now I wanted to ask you also, Chad, about your relationship to performing, because, you know, I read on your website that you trained at Dell'Arte and done a lot of physical theater. Oh, and I also read that you'd made a boat. You'd built a boat and sailed down the Mississippi.
Yeah.
That sounds like a cool story.
Yeah, it's funny. All of these things are kind of interconnected. It's funny how it goes, but
well, I love boats. So tell me about the boat.
Yeah. Well, after I went to Dell'Arte, I had a colleague there that I went to school with who was from Minneapolis, and you know, the program at Dell'Arte is community based. It's the idea is to devise original theater that is community based, that is based on the place and the people that you're going to be performing for. That's meaningful to certain groups of people. So that's what we were trained in, and this person, Walken Schwager, he had the idea, kind of a dream of his always, to float down the Mississippi River and perform. Wow. And I kind of didn't know what I was going to do after I left Dell'Arte, and just said, let's do it, you know? And so we went back to Minneapolis, and we started developing a show that was on the history of vagabonds of the Mississippi River.
How cool.
So, and at the same time started building a boat. And it was, you know, the community of people down there that I was connected with this was the anarchist group, kind of punk scene. And so we were we were salvaging everything. We pretty much built a boat out of salvage material, and it was a triple pontoon raft, kind of like a houseboat, but just built out of junk. It's a junk raft. The junk raft is a long time tradition of river folk, especially on the Mississippi River. People every year people build homemade boats and float down the Mississippi River and get as far as they can get, and that could be a bunch of barrels tied together, or it could be something more sophisticated like what we built. But all the way back till obviously Huck Finn, it's a tradition to float from the top of the river down to the mouth. I mean, you're getting from the north down to the open ocean, and it's a passageway really to freedom, to something new. And so it's always begged people and called people to get on the river and leave, right? So it's a really romantic kind of idea. So what we wanted to do was basically create this show that was based on real stories of vagabonds on the Mississippi. And so our characters in the show, each character that we had, there were 6 of us, and each character was based on a historical person that we kind of researched, and all of which were vagabonds of certain sorts. Outsiders, people who lived on the periphery of popular society, and those are the stories that we wanted to tell. There was one character who we decided had to be in the show who was not necessarily a vagabond, and that was Mark Twain. So and I became that character. I was chosen to play that character. So
that's where the Mark Twain connection comes in.
So that's where I first began performing as Mark Twain. And in that show, we were actually playing the ghosts of those characters.
Oh, cool.
So in that show, I was actually a ghost clown of Mark Twain. You know what I'm saying? So it was a circus-based show, a lot of musicians and dance, and it was a musical that we would perform it. We would come into a town and roll up into town and pass out flyers and perform in the park or anywhere we could find for free for everybody in the community.
Oh my goodness. How much fun.
It was fantastic. We spent about 6 months on the Mississippi performing and floating and breaking down. And
where did you sleep? Did you sleep on the boat?
Sometimes we did. If most of the time we would park the boat on an island or a sandbar or something and camp. We were camping pretty much the whole time. We also got put up a lot of times. People would say, "Oh, come and stay in we have this big house up here. Just stay in that house for this week while you guys are here." People were very, very generous to us, and we got a lot of help along the way. So people loved seeing us. That history is really strong, and when people saw us coming down the river, they knew what we were doing. They knew that we were traveling by way of river, and we had a purpose, and that's really meaningful there. It's a big part of the culture, that river travel. And so so we would either camp, or we would, when the weather was really bad, which we saw a lot of bad weather, we would camp on the boat, inside the cabin that was built on the boat. People can look it up. We had a filmmaker aboard, and he created a feature-length documentary that followed us. Actually,
what were you called?
It's called the film is called Twilight on the Mississippi, and you can look us up. We have a Facebook page and stuff. Our group is called the Unseen Ghost Brigade. That was our group name. So you can Google Unseen Ghost Brigade, and there's a few trailers for the film on YouTube. And if you look up our Facebook group, you can see a lot of pictures of the raft and things like that, and pictures from our show.
That's very awesome.
But so, that was really the epitome. Just to close, I mean, that was an important. It was almost our thesis. Paper coming out of grad school was this very, very in-depth, on the ground, community-based performance that and that's really where a lot of my passion lies in the performing world is not creating a show that people have to buy a ticket for and come see and come to the theater to see this show, but to create a show for the people and bring it to them, you know.
Yeah,
I think
that's really incredibly inspiring project. And I have a love of boats myself, and the connection between boats and circus and theater is really strong for me. And the image of you guys floating down the Mississippi, the sort of band of vagabonds, is quite lovely.
Yeah.
So I'm just enjoying that.
I often think about it, and I can't believe it actually happened. You know, it is
what was the year?
That was 2010.
Okay.
So, yeah, quite a while ago now, but you know, it was one of those dreams, you know, and you know that it just goes to show that, you know, even your wildest dreams, you can make it happen. You know, if someone had said to me, "Oh, you're going to create a show and you're going to float down the Mississippi River performing it for free for half a year," you know, I would have said, "Well, that seems a little bit far fetched," you know. But we did it, you know, we really did it. And we built the boat ourselves, and I drove that boat 1,000 miles down the Mississippi River. And I'm not sure how I did that, you know, but we did it.
So where are you at now in your performing career? Is it something you want to get back to?
Yeah, absolutely. The idea for this company is really to free up my time so I can be more of a performer, and get back into Twain. Twain has a lot of projects that he is doing, which are everything from a solo stage show to an online film that I'm working on. And you know, my performing career definitely got sidetracked because I went into the restaurant industry, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who can empathize with this, but I worked for years in the restaurant industry, and that is an industry which directly conflicts with the performing world, with the theater. And people go out to dinner and have a good time at the same time that they go out to see shows. So it made it really hard to be a performer, to audition for shows, and to really be out there and put on a show when people would want to see it, because I was always working. And anyway, a lot of this was in the Bay Area, and yeah, it's just the cost of living in the Bay Area went up so fast that I certainly couldn't keep up with it. And so that at the same time, this business started to get formed. And it's only in the past year that I've actually really realized that it's a good enough business that it could sustain me. You know, I've just started, you know, recently in this year, been able to support my family off of clown noses, and that's amazing. It's fantastic. It's a great feat. And so, you know, I'm expanding the business, and you know, I hope to one day have, I don't know, you know, it could go in the business itself could go in a lot of different directions, but ideally, a lot of this new manufacturing and hiring that I could do will free up my time and allow me to do what I'm actually best at, which is what I'm actually trained in, which is using the noses.
Are there any theater festivals out in your direction in Oregon?
Not in my town. I live in a pretty small town, but we're not far from Ashland, Oregon. So there's definitely that's one of the biggest Shakespeare festivals in the country there, in Ashland, Oregon. And you know, I'm only a few hours from Portland. So, but you know, as I'm sure you know, a lot of performance is reaching more broader audiences by going online. And I've been using Twain online for a little while, actually, and working on scripts and stuff like that, because I realized that it actually offers me a little bit of production allows Twain to exist in two different worlds, his original world and our world. And so I'm playing with a lot of stuff like that, in time travel and stuff like that. You know, how how did Twain get here, and answering those questions, and playing with this concept of Mark Twain and his social commentary. What would he say about our world if he did time travel and come here and end up in our world? What would he say? What would be different and what would be similar to his world? He grew up in, he was writing in what's called the Gilded Age. And that was actually a very similar time to what we're in right now. It was a time when there were rich, really rich kind of, they were robber barons. They were the logger barons and the gold barons, and the people who in the Industrial Revolution, who there was a time when money was hoarded by people, similarly to the way it is being hoarded now. And,
interesting. So it's comparable, really, to what's going on now.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and Twain's ideas and philosophies are very, very relevant till today, and so I'm always looking for ways to bring his character and make him useful in today's world. So yeah, and that's really, I mean, I like it. Twain is a character that I could do for the rest of my life, obviously.
It seems like you should have a YouTube channel for Twain.
Yeah, absolutely. I should. Yeah, that's all. Hopefully I can start putting some of that stuff up and really getting out there and performing more. Most of the work that I've done previous to this business getting really a lot bigger was I was doing a lot of educational stuff. I would take Twain into schools and teach history lessons in character. And I would do some things like roast people at their retirement parties and things like that.
Yeah, I can see that being amazing.
Yeah. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I suppose you have to really consolidate this business and get it very solid. And as you say, kind of get to a point where you have maybe employees that are doing a lot of the day-to-day work before you start really being able to do these other projects, because the business might suffer otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a solo. I'm solo with this business right now, and I'm up to here with everything that it takes to run this business, and so I should say that the plan is actually to have Twain become the kind of face of the company, to be the mascot or the spokesperson for the company, to be my character that I play.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so it really does gel. I mean, he's the reason I started this company, actually, and he's the character that I play, and it will be a good gelling of this company and my need to perform more, actually, and that'll really get us out there. And so hopefully in the near future you start seeing some fun commercials that I do for Red Nose Factory that are with me doing Twain in them and stuff like that. Yeah,
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end of our hour here, Chad. I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your incredibly busy business operation to talk to me, because it's just, to me, it's wonderful and fascinating, this topic. And I've really, really enjoyed talking about it.
Yeah, me too. I have too. I never thought that I would actually become kind of a clown nose, aficionado in this way, but it's turned out to be the case. And and I've kind of, I'm working on actually a little bit of I don't know if it'll be a short book or something which really just elaborates on the touchstones that I've come across for nose performing, a lot of which are based on mass performance experience that I have.
Yeah.
But in using a nose so much and playing with them and the shapes of them and communicating with so many clowns, I have collected a lot of kind of what I think are some good touch tones on performing in a nose, and also choosing a nose that's right for your character and things like this. And I look out for that too. I did a little bit of a workshop at a clown convention online last year, kind of just talking about this subject, and it went really well. So I'm gonna try to push in that direction a little bit more, and try to talk a little bit more about that. I think that's not a subject that comes up. I think the nose is usually just like you're either wearing it or you're not, and it's just this thing that's stuck on your face. But there can be a lot more that goes into it, a lot more technique and a lot more thought that can go into the way that you wear it. If anybody has done any trained mask work in workshops or performing, you'll know that you can delve into the details of performing in a mask infinitely, and the same goes with the smallest mask as it's called, right? So yeah. Just,
do you know any other? Are you in touch with other nose makers internationally? It needs to be like a nose makers network, or
Yeah, that's good actually. I'm not actually.
You should make a group.
There's really not that many of them, and
there's probably like 5 of you in the whole world. You know,
yeah.
It would be cool to know them, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I know Iman Lazar-Zoo, and she has a company, Renegade Juggling, and they have a line of clown noses. They're not handmade noses, but they're fantastic silicone noses, Renegade Juggling. But around the world, it's really not that easy to find out about it. It's very colloquial. People have their nose maker, and that person makes noses for this group of people. I think that's usually how it works. And then there's a few companies, but not that many. It's kind of like a lost art form.
It's not like shoes, where I feel like with clown shoes, there's a bunch of people out. Like it's a bit more of a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's become more of a thing. So it sounds like you've got a captive market, pretty much a monopoly, Chad.
All I do on the self-attaching noses. Yeah.
Awesome.
There's a lot of room. There's so many clowns in the world, in every city, in every country, all across the world. There are thousands of clowns everywhere. There's I guarantee there's no city in the world that does not have a clown in it. And that is just it's growing, and clowns are going into whole different new areas that they've never gone into before. So and I have a little bit of my finger on the pulse, and I'll tell you the up and coming younger generations are really excited about it. I get a lot of young people who are interested in clowning, who are wanting to know what it's really all about. So a lot of people feel like the art form is dying, but it's not at all. It's just transforming and changing. So
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That is exactly the top of the hour. So we could keep on talking for another hour, I'm sure, but I'm gonna let you get back to your amazing business. And folks, just remember to go to the Red Nose Factory next time you're looking for a nose, because everything you need is right there. rednosefactory.com, right? That's the
rednosefactory.com. And we also have a Facebook group that I'll plug, just called the Factory Floor, where if you're in that group, you kind of get taste of our new projects and exciting things that are happening. So
I don't think I'm on that. I'll have to join that myself.
Yeah, do that. Love to have you there.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you so much, Chad.
Thank you, Barnaby.
I'll see you guys all next week. We're going to have, I'm not sure who's on next week. It's going to be a bit of a mystery one next week. I've got various people possibly lined up. And then the week after that, Angela De Castro, the amazing Brazilian clown who is really based in the UK for most of her life. And then after that, Nola Ray, the week after that. And then the week after that, Mick Barnfather, who's another amazing British clown. And then I better fit in some American clowns pretty soon after that. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time for another Clown-versation. Bye, everyone.